Hi everyone, unfortunately, as you can see, I'm indoors, but fear not, we'll be out in the field shortly. Unfortunately, there was a sound issue with some of the video that I recorded this morning, so I'm just doing this beginning bit indoors. We'll be outdoors shortly. Did you miss us? Fear not, we're back. 2023 has ended. December was a bit wet and gloomy, but it's a bit better now, 1st of January. You know what that means? It's the start of the 300 bird challenge. Back in a moment. Okay, so it's the 1st of January 2024 and we're at Colonel Sam Smith Park. I know we've been there a few times recently, but it was in wet, gloomy December, and anyway, we thought it would be a good place to start the year. Plenty of ducks there, a few perching birds, and perhaps also there was talk of some rare birds that we might come across. At the beginning of the video, where we lost the sound, Sarah and I talked about what the first bird is we might see. Sarah's guess, American tree sparrow. My guess, European starling. Would it be either of those, or perhaps something completely different? Let's take a look. We didn't see any birds between leaving the car park and arriving at the marina, so actually both of our first bird guesses were wrong. Our first bird sighting, rather aptly, I suppose, was the Canada goose, followed by another ubiquitous species, the mallard duck. But we were delighted by the next sighting. You might just about hear Sarah call out, pintail. This is a nice, handsome male specimen with long pointy tail and that white chest with a stripe of white continuing up along the rear side of his brown head. As we continued to walk around the edge of the marina, where you can see we'd had a sprinkling of snow overnight, we also saw lots of red-breasted mergansers. Walking through some trees in the hope of spotting any perching birds, we only really saw a couple of cardinals. A few ring-billed gulls were also wheeling around the marina and the shore of Lake Ontario. And there were a few scaup around too. It's tough to identify greater versus lesser scaup. We're going with greater scaup here, based on the head shape and the larger black tip on the end of the beak, but we're open to corrections if you want to leave a comment saying otherwise. The last few birds we saw on the south side of the marina were the American black ducks, a few mute swans, and in amongst the dogwood we saw a few American tree sparrows chipping away. We began to make our way past Wimbrel Point and its iconic signpost pole towards West Point. We were hoping to see the eared grebe that we showed in our last video so that we could now count it towards 2024. So, did you guys get any nice birding related Christmas gifts from Santa this year? Let me know in the comments if you got anything cool under the tree, because Sarah and I decided to get ourselves a birding scope this year. I'll talk more about our model in a future video, but for now, we looked west towards Mary Curtis Park for any new birds, including possibly the eared grebe. We saw just a couple of species, some bufflehead, and several gadwall. Unfortunately, no eared grebe, although some other people spotted it later that day, quite far out. But as we were packing up the scope, we were really happy to see several individuals of a quite rare species. There were 4 harlequin ducks swimming along the shore of Lake Ontario. 3 of them are female, and there's also an immature male there, the one on the right rear in this shot with slightly darker plumage. Harlequin ducks are commonly found on the coasts of North America, as well as Greenland, Iceland, parts of Russia and Asia, as well as further inland during breeding season. The plumage of these females and the immature male is somewhat reminiscent of the female bufflehead, but long-time viewers of this channel might recall that we saw a breeding male towards the end of spring in 2023. If you ever get a chance to see one, they really are quite an extraordinary looking duck. Here's some footage from last year. Okay, a few other birds we saw while we were around West Point, some common goldeneye, and by the way, is it just me that hears James Bond music every time there's a golden eye? Yeah, I can't actually play Tina Turner for copyright reasons. We also saw a common loon in non-breeding plumage. We can't wait to see these guys later in the year in their breeding plumage. Some long-tailed ducks. We already saw red-breasted mergansers earlier in this video, but this male is cray-cray, chowing down on a crayfish for lunch. Here's a closer look at a male bufflehead. And while we were mucking about with the scope, hey, come on, we're still practicing, it's new. A crow flew by, and I got some hasty footage of that. We also got slightly distant views of a confused downy woodpecker. It was clinging to a metal lamppost initially before deciding that a nearby tree might hold greater fortune for it. Oh, and good news, my sound started working again, so over to me. Okay, we've left the area around West Point. We saw a few things there, including a couple of birds through the scope as well, the bufflehead and gadwall. As we were leaving West Point, we saw the harlequins. There was 4 of those, 3 females and what looks like an immature male, so that's a really cool sighting for the first day of the year. We're going to continue further into the park, see if we can pick up any more passerines. So far it's just the northern cardinal and the American tree sparrow. It's fairly quiet with the perching birds so far. This probably isn't our last stop for the day. We'll probably head further west, away from Toronto. See if we can pick up as much as we can today. I think we're at about 18 species so far, and we want to try and beat that 25 from January 1st last year. So let's keep going, see what else is here. Okay, we've dropped the scope off, time for a quick tea break, and then we're going to go and have a walk around and look for some perching birds. We spent a few moments walking a loop around the parking lot and around the North Creek Pond area, and we picked up a few more common species. Morning dove is captured. Okay, so just hanging around the parking lot a little bit and this pond behind us, we've seen a few common species, American robin, house sparrow, we saw a downy woodpecker, mourning doves, that kind of thing. I think we're gonna probably go back to the car now and move on to another spot. So if you see anything else, oh, we saw a chickadee, but I didn't get it on camera, and them's the rules, it doesn't count, but I'm sure we'll find a chickadee again at some point. So let's go back to the car and find out where we're gonna go next. If you're enjoying this video and you're not already subscribed, please consider doing so, it really helps the channel out. In the meantime, stay tuned to find out where we go next. We'll be back after this. We drove south along the QEW with hopes of visiting somewhere with a reputation for good ducks and maybe some rarities. By the way, the buses of Burlington Transit wish you a Happy New Year. Okay, so we've come a few kilometres west to Burlington, to LaSalle Marina. We're going to take a look out over the marina to see if we can find anything out there. We did just see a coot. We searched around the marina for ducks and gulls. Sarah was using the scope and she spotted a herring gull.
There's a herring gull on the dock 316 there.
It's the larger gull preening itself behind all of the ring-billed gulls in this shot. And we got even closer views of another male bufflehead. If we get much closer, we'll be riding to New York on the back of the next one. There was a white-winged scotter over near the breakwall. And there's usually a large gathering of trumpeter swans at LaSalle Marina. One bird we really wanted to see was a western grebe, really very rare in the east, but one had been hanging around in the lake for a few weeks. There were plenty of horned grebe, like this one. We moved our scope to a better vantage point. The bay here is quite industrial, but being a bay and relatively sheltered, it does attract a lot of birds. But they can be quite far out, and so things get a bit complicated with our bird count and what we're going to include and not. There were nearly a dozen other birders looking out over the bay, and with some help, I was able to get an extremely distant view of a western grebe with my camera. but there wasn't room for us to use our scope. So we decided that even though it's an exciting eastern sighting, we're not going to count this bird. The footage just isn't clear enough to separate it from, for example, a horned grebe. Now this is a red-throated loon, but sadly Sarah had had to step away for a while, so I'm also not counting this. We both have to see the bird for it to count. To be honest, this would be a lifer, so I'd ideally want to get a better shot of it anyway. Okay, moving on to things that actually do count. Joining back up with Sarah, she pointed out some canvasbacks that she spotted. The waterfowl here are used to being fed, and there were a few interesting domestic mallard types, including this white mucky duck, this white-breasted mucky duck, and this dark-coloured mucky duck that I thought was quite interesting because it was holding itself in a different posture to the rest of the mallards. Its kind of centre of gravity was held further back and its neck was extended at all times. So I wondered if maybe it had a bit of muscovy in it or something like that. Pre-productive looks out over the marina. We're now heading into a woodlot that's kind of back off from the lake a little bit, see if we can add some more perching birds. Further along the shore, we were greeted by some black-capped chickadees, one of my mum's favourite birds from Canada. Hi Mum! There were also a few white-breasted nuthatch around. And this male red-bellied woodpecker. Okay guys, unfortunately time to go home now, but we did have a really good day today. Highlight bird for you, Sarah?
Northern pintail.
Definitely agree with that. I really like seeing the pintail too. It was also cool seeing those harlequin ducks both at Colonel Sam Smith Park. Glad we got a few perching birds in here as well. Thanks for watching this video guys. Please like the video, that really helps me out, helps other people find the channel. If you subscribe if you're not already, that's a massive help. Really appreciate everyone that subscribes to this channel. We'll have more content coming soon. Stay tuned to the channel. See you soon. Thanks for watching. Happy birding. Okay, one more thing before I go. If you like my videos and you're a subscriber to this channel, you might also enjoy subscribing to my good friends Nigel and Kaylee. They're at Backyard Avery Adventures on YouTube. They're also doing a birding challenge similar to ours. Check them out to see another birding big year, but this time UK based, so some different birds for you guys to look at. Check them out. Information on the screen right now, and their channel is also in the description of this video. Thanks for watching.